Today I'm going to teach you how you can recreate this animation in After Effects. So the first thing that we are going to do is to create a new composition. So just left click on new composition and this window should open right there. And let's call it animation redo, and also make sure that the size is also correct. In my case, I'm using these numbers right here. Let's hit OK. And the first thing that we are going to do is to create the background. The background is some type of bluish grid background, and it's pretty simple to redo that. And the first thing that I like to do is to go up here and select my rectangle tool, just left click, and now you have to drag and drop your rectangle over your scene. And we have to change the color from red to blue. So just hit the fill button up here with your left click. And now we can give it the color that we want. I think it was some type of light blue, like so. Just hit OK. And let's rename our layer so we don't confuse them in the future. So let's call it background. So the next step that we are going to take is to head over to our Effects and Presets tab, and that should be on your right side in After Effects down here. If you don't see this window or this tab on the right side of your After Effects, you can still add it by clicking the window option up here, and then you can add it and you can also take it away if you want to. So by clicking that, it should show up. Now we have to type in grid, and you have to select the grid option or the grid effect under generate. Just drag and drop it on your layer right here. So right now it looks pretty ugly. We have to change the settings. For that we have to head up over here on the left side of our grid effects tab, and we have to play around with these numbers. I don't have a certain number that I'm looking for. I'm just playing around until it looks good. I think it was a pretty big grid background, so let's do it like that. And I would like to change the border, maybe set it to 2, so it's getting thinner, or you can also set it to, let's say, 4 or something like that to make it thicker, so it should look something like that. So it looks pretty good to me. Now we don't see our blue background, and in order to change that we have to set the blending mode from none to screen. And what it does is that it makes our grid effect transparent, and now we see our blue background again. So the next thing that I would like to do is to create the carpet. Again, we go up here to our rectangle tool and just create some kind of carpet form. Let's call it like that. And let's rename this layer to carpet. And now we have to activate our 3D layers. Just left click and we should be able to transform it even more, because you can see we have a lot of new options right here that we can play around with. You really have to figure out what you want, how you would like to have it in your scene. I want to have something like that. No, wait a second. So it's like sitting there in an angle. It's a little bit too tiny. I need it a bit bigger, like so. All right. Maybe a bit smaller. Yeah, like so. You can always take a few steps back with your mouse wheel and take a look from another perspective. Yeah, it doesn't look so good. Let's do it like so. So that looks good for me. Okay, the next step is to add our person, like the meditating man that is like sitting on this carpet. For that you can head over to Canva and look for a man that is meditating, or like a man that is sitting around, and you can just download it and add it into your project. Canva is in general a really good tool that you can use for your projects, like I used it for my animation. So let's go ahead and add this man right into our project. So there he is. So also let's rename that layer as well. Let's call it sitting man. Hit enter, and we have to scale it down a little bit because he's way too big right now. And let's move him up like so. Maybe let's resize the carpet as well, because the meditating man is in the first animation, he's coming down, and so we have to make him a bit smaller so it looks better. Like so. Let's reposition the carpet as well. A little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Alright, looks good. Let's also reposition the man a little bit. Let's put him on the left side and also a little bit up, like so. Okay, we should make sure that his head is still in the scene and not outside of it, like so. That looks good for me. So let's add our first animation. And this animation is pretty simple. We have to hit P, so let's select your layer, hit P, and then your position option should pop up. And let's hit this stopwatch, so that way you can create a keyframe. And now we go forward with our playhead, like right here. And now we have to change his height, so just go ahead and change the y-axis right here. Let's lower it down, like so. That should look good. Alright, let's select your keyframes, go to your graph editor, select them again, and now you have to press F9 on your keyboard. Then you should have something like that. Let's zoom in a little bit. You can zoom in by holding your Alt key and by using your mouse wheel. So now we have to change the keyframes a little bit by clicking on these little yellow dots right here and just drag and drop them, or like drag them closer to the middle, and you should end up with something like that. So let's take a look how it looks. Okay, it's way too slow. Okay, that looks better. Still a little bit too slow. Yeah, it's a little bit too fast. Okay, looks good. The next thing that we are adding is the shadow. When you take a look at the animation, you can see that it's getting darker when the man is coming down. Like, it is bright when he's up here, but when he's coming down, a dark shadow is also appearing from down here. So let's add this in, and for that we have to create a solid. And for creating a solid, we have to right click our mouse and go over to the new tab and left click the solid option. The color is already correct, we want it to be black, and let's rename this layer to, let's say, background shadow. Let's hit enter. And now what we have to do is to select our layer right here and also select our pen tool up here. And now we are doing something like that, and you can see that the black part is only down here. And now what I need you to do is to expand your layer right here by hitting this little arrow, and also do it in the mask. And if you don't have this option set already, you have to change it from none to add. So what you need to do now is to change the mask feather from 0 to, yeah, let's say, wait a second, let's play around with it a little bit more, like so. Okay, so you have to play around with it a little bit more, maybe like so. That should look good. But let's move this layer behind the stuff that's in the foreground, so we have something like that. Okay. And you should end up with something like that. For me personally, it's a little bit too dark, so let's change the feathering a little bit more. Maybe like so. Alright, looks good. And now we have to change the opacity of our mask. When he's up here, of course the opacity is 0. So let's add a mask opacity keyframe. And let's change it from 100% to 0. And now let's go ahead. Let's see when he's hitting the carpet around here. And now we have to change it from 0 to 100%. Alright, okay, we have to change it a little bit because it's not looking that good right now. I would also say that we have to add, or we have to hit F9 on the shadow as well and change the keyframe settings also. maybe a little bit slower. No, it's too slow. So you really have to play around with it until it looks good for you personally. Okay, that looks actually pretty good. Yeah, that looks okay. Yeah, that's okay. All right. The next thing that I would like to add is his head movement. In my animation, he's moving his head from the left to the right side, and it's really simple to animate this movement. For that, we have to select this layer of the sitting person, and we have to select our puppet position pin tool up here. You can also hit Ctrl P and just select the body parts that you want to animate. In my case, I want to animate the head, so just left click on the head, but we can't leave it there because when we are trying to move it around, we are moving the entire body, and that's not what we want. So you have to select other body parts as well. In my case, I have to select the shoulders, so to pin it down right here, so the entire body is not moving, so only his head is moving, like like so. For me personally, when I move his head, he's still moving his body a little bit too much. So let's use another pin right here, and it should look a bit better. It's fine for me. In order to animate his head right now, we have to go over to the mesh option right here. So you have to expand your layer right here, go to puppet, go to mesh, expand it as well, go to your deform tab. Now you have to figure out which pin it is. It is the pin that is entirely yellow. In my case, it is my first pin because it's the first pin that I set. And you have to expand that as well. And now you can already see that we have one keyframe already set automatically right here. And now we can deform his head to just move forward a little bit. And now let's deform his head like to the left. And also to the right. Like so. And also, a quick reminder, you have to save your project. So don't forget that in order to be safe, because you never know if After Effects is crashing or something like that. So just be safe and save your projects. Now we have something like that. Okay, it doesn't look really good. So just do it like so. Still was a bit too much. Let's do it like so maybe. So you really have to play around with it. So I can't stress that enough. You really have to experiment. You really have to figure something out. It looks good. So there's no number or no angle that I'm looking for. It's really your flow. It's really just you. So that looks pretty good to me. So we can just copy and paste these keyframes in here, like so. You have a movement like that. Doesn't look too good. We have to select our keyframes. Go in here, press F9 once more. And now we have to change these keyframes a little bit in the way that we are moving them up a little bit. Because, just do it real quick, I will explain it in a second. Because when these little yellow boxes that you can see right here, when they are hitting this thick line down here, there's zero movement. And by picking them up and placing them above the thick line, we are ensuring that the movement is a little bit more in the flow, a little bit more fluent, and it's not like this chopped up movement. So let's take a look at it if it is better now. So in my opinion, it's much better now than before. Of course he's slowing down, but he's still moving much better than before. So just do it, or I would recommend it to you to do it that way. For me, he's still moving a bit too fast, so let's separate the keyframes a bit more. Of course, you can be really precise and count your frames if you want to, but in my case, that is enough. Alright, still a bit too fast. That is looking much better. Let's save the project. And let's move on. The next thing that we are going to do is to add the text box. And that's really simple. When I saw this text box first, I was thinking, damn, that is going to be really hard, but it is actually not that hard. For doing this text box, we also have to create a new rectangle with our rectangle tool up here. So just go ahead and do it like so. And we have to activate our stroke right here. We have to hold our Alt key and left click, and we have to delete our filling. So also hit Alt and left click. And now we have to thicken the stroke to, let's say, 8. And we have to add some roundness. That should also be on your right side. You can also add that in when you hit your window key up here, as I told you before. And yeah, just add some roundness, like so. And I think that it is not entirely white, it is some kind of white, bluish color, like that. And now we have to add a name to this layer. Let's call it text box. And we also have to add a blur, like it is blurred in this area right here. For that we have to create a adjustment layer. So right click, new, and left click on adjustment layer, rename it to blur text box, hit enter, and now click on your adjustment layer, go up and select your pen tool again. Now you have to trace it down like the stroke of your text box, like so. Let's check it if it is good enough or not, but it should be perfect. Okay, maybe here a little bit more up. Okay, more to the left. That's perfect. Alright, now we have to add a blur, and I like to add the Gaussian blur effect. It should be right here under blur and sharpen, and just drag and drop it onto your blur text box or your adjustment layer, and adjust the blurriness from 0 to, let's say, 30. Of course now it looks really ugly, and that's because it is above our text box. So just left click and drag it under your text box, and it should look much better, like that. Okay, let's create the text, and that is also really simple. Just left click on your horizontal type tool. You can also hit Ctrl T and just left click in your project and just type in the text. In my case it is dopamine detox, and just go ahead and move it in front of all of your layers and hit S and scale it down because it's way too big. And let's see if it fits in our little box. Like so. In that case it's really hard to see because of the shirt. And in order to make the text more visible, I like to add a shadow effect. In my case it is the drop shadow. So you should find it under perspective, and also drag and drop it on your text and adjust the softness from 0 to 87 or maybe 54. I like that. And now we can see the text much more clearly. Alright, but it is not entirely in this boldish style. I think that dopamine is thin and detox is thick. So let's change it. And I think it's a little bit too bold. So let's go with bold right here. Looks good. Now we have to add the animation of this dopamine detox text right here. The problem is my After Effects is in English, but when I'm looking for this effect, it is in German. If you couldn't tell before, I'm from Germany. My accent is my accent is pretty yeah, like you can hear that I'm not American, or like, I don't know, I'm not a native English speaker.
Seems to me somebody's trying to bury you in here. No shit, Sherlock.
What I was saying is that it is for some reason German for me. So if you have it in German for some weird reason, it is die Weichzeichnen und Einblenden for you. I think in English it should be blur in completion. It should be called like that. You really have to take a look. So just type in text like me and hit the blur button, and it should be down here somewhere. And yeah, just drag and drop it onto your text. So it should be blur and fade in completion for you. It should be something like that. And it already looks pretty good. But I would like to make it a little bit faster. So let's get right into it and bring the keyframe closer to this keyframe. Looks much better. And now let's go ahead and pre-compose the text box and the text by holding Control and left click. You can select all your layers that you want. In my case, I want the text box, and also the blur text box. Hit left click and pre-compose. Let's call it text box and just hit enter. Now you can see that the blur effect is gone, but we can bring it back to life by hitting this little box right here, and it should be back again. So now we have this animation right here, but now we have to also animate our text box, and that's also really simple. We just have to go ahead, click on our text box, like left clicking it, and now we have to press P again, like before with our meditating man, and then we click on the stopwatch again to create our keyframe, and now we have to move forward until the man is hitting the carpet, like around here, and now we have to move the whole text box up like so, around here. And now of course we have to select our keyframes, go into our graph editor, also again select our keyframes, and now you have to hit F9 again, bring those keyframes, or like these little yellow boxes, closer together, so you have something like this right here. So let's take a look at it, how it looks. And that's too slow, we need it to be there faster. So let's bring them closer together. A little bit faster. So around here, that actually looks pretty good. That's decent. And now we have done this text box, but now we have to do the other text box. There's the second text box down here, the red text box with the text that says 24 to 70 hours with this little clock graphic, and that's also really simple. It's actually like recreating the text box right here. We have to go up here to our rectangle tool and just create another rectangle, change the color from blue to red, hit OK, and now we have to change the stroke from this bluish color to white, hit OK, and again we have to add some roundness. So let's go ahead and change the number to, let's say, 56. That actually looks really good. But let's change the thickness of the stroke. I think that's a little bit too thick. So let's change it to, let's say, 5. So that's actually perfect. Let's rename that layer to, let's call it textbox 2, like so. And now we have to create the text again. Just click on your horizontal type tool again and left click in your project like so. Let's type in 24 to 70 hours. That is the text that we need. And now let's hit S and scale it down so that it fits in our little text box down here. And we also have to make some room for the watch icon. So let's make sure that it fits in here. Maybe we can also do it like so. Just grab the little square right here, and you can drag and drop them, or like drag them apart a little bit. So that also looks really good. And now let's add in the watch icon. So there it is. And now again, let's change the name of the layer to, let's say, watch, hit enter, and also hit S to scale it down as well, like the text. Obviously that's way too big, so let's scale it down even more. So, and let's take a look if it fits in here correctly. Maybe we have to shrink it even more. Maybe no, a little bit, just a little bit more, not that much. Just okay, that's too big. Let's say maybe 10. No, that's too small. 13. Let's zoom out a little bit. In general, I like to zoom out so you can see the entire animation and not just like this close-up of the animation. I personally think that that looks really good. So let's go ahead and also add a drop shadow effect like to the text up here. So let's go ahead and type in drop shadow, and again just drag and drop it to your text. Add some softness like so, and that should be fine. And again, save your project by pressing Ctrl and S on your keyboard. Now we have to create another pre-composition, so just go ahead and select your watch icon and also your text. So just hold Ctrl, and now you have to left click the image and also the text, and now you can pre-compose it. Just right click, and now you can click on pre-compose, and let's call it watch and text. Hit enter, and now we can go ahead and animate these two layers together. So let's expand this layer right here by clicking this little arrow. Again, at the transform tab, and now I want you to click on position, and now let's move it around here. We really have to take a look where we want to start the animation. Let's say around here. That should be good, I would say. Now we have to lower the text and the icon down like so, like around here. That should look good. And now we have to bring them up again. So just go ahead with your playhead, go forward, and now we have to bring these two layers up again until it is in the right position. Let's say around here. That looks really good. So let's see how it looks. Okay, we have to improve the graph. Again, hit F9. Zoom in a little bit by holding your Alt key, and using your mouse wheel you can zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. That should be good. Yeah, that's actually fine. And now let's use the exact same frames for the opacity. Create the keyframe, change it to 0, go to the other keyframe like here and change it to 100% so it is visible again, and also change the graph like before. Again, hit F9 and bring these two yellow circles closer together, and you should end up with something like that. Looks actually not that bad. Yeah, it's actually really good. So let's go ahead and also animate the text box. And that's also really simple. I need you to press S again on your keyboard, and the scale option should pop up right here. And I need you to click this little box right here, the constraint proportions. By clicking on it, you can change the scale individually. Like you can go ahead and change the width of your text box, and that's what we actually need. So now let's create the keyframe right here, and now I need you to change the first number to 0 so it is not visible. And now let's go ahead and bring it back to 100% so it is visible again. And now we actually have to see where the keyframe of the watch and text is. So let's go ahead and let's take a look. But before we do that, we also have to change the keyframes again by pressing F9. I don't think I have to tell you that any longer. I think you already know what you have to press when you're in the graph editor, which is great. I really want you to learn something in this video. So if you already know what you have to press in order to make your keyframes look better, then I have reached my goal for today's video. So that's actually really good what I see right here. It's maybe a little bit too fast. So let's separate the keyframes a little bit more, like around so. So that's actually not that bad, but I think we can do it better. Maybe a little bit more to the right side. So let's take a look. Yeah, that looks actually really good. I like that. Okay. And now we still see this gap right here, and I think that it is a bit too big, this gap. So let's bring it closer, but before we do that, we are creating another pre-composition. So we are using the pre-composition we already created, the watch and text, and also the text box, and create another pre-composition. And let's name it text box 2, because it is our second text box. Now let's press P for the position and bring it up to close this gap right here. So it should look something like that. Maybe it is a bit too close, so maybe let's position it around here. That looks really good. Let's take a look again. So that's really perfect. That's how I want it to be. Really nice. Okay, perfect. Okay, the next thing that I added to my animation is the dashed line that is coming from down here to up here. I know it is not in the original animation from Iman Gadzhi, but I really like to add this line effect because it looks really good and it is really simple to do that actually. So let's go ahead and do that dashed line. In order to do that, we have to right click, go to new, and we have to create a new shape layer. So just left click on shape layer, and now you have to go in your shape layer, click on this little play button behind add, left click, and now you have to add in a path. And by clicking path, you can already see that After Effects is auto selecting our pen tool up here. And now we have to go ahead and draw our line that we are using for our dashed line. So just left click down here, now also left click, let's say around here, and now you have to drag your mouse to the left or to the right side, whatever you want your dashed line to look like I want mine to be around here. And now let's again left click up here and also play around with the angle a little bit more. Let's say like so, that should be good. And now let's go ahead and click on your selection tool again. You can also hit V if you want to select it. And let's take a look. I think that I can go down here a little bit more, play around with the angle maybe a little bit more. So maybe let's bring it over here. Okay, that should look good. Now we have to again click on our play button right here, and now we have to add in a stroke right here. Let's left click it, and now you have to expand it by clicking this little arrow, and now you have to add a width. It is already set to the number 2, but we want it to be thicker, so let's bring it to, let's say 20. 20 looks actually really good. So now we have to go down. You can already see an option that is called dashes, but if you expand it, you see nothing in there, and that's because you have to hit this little plus symbol right here. Just left click it, and you can see that we have some dashes in here. Of course, it looks really ugly right now, and that's because we didn't change the settings. In order for it to be more beautiful, we have to change the dash number from 10 to, let's say, around, what looks good, 135 looks really good in my opinion. The next step is to change the color from white to some kind of light blue I think I used in my animation. So let's go ahead and do that. I think maybe we can also select the background color and go more to the left side to have a good looking light blue color right here. Looks good, but now we have to animate this line, and for that we have to click the play button once more, and we have to select the trim path option. So left click, expand it, and now we have to play around with the end option right here. So just create a keyframe, and now we have to bring it to 0. let's move the playhead forward like so. Now we have to change the number from the end option right here to 100 again. So it should be there again. And let's take a look how it looks. Okay, that's way too fast. So let's slow it down by increasing the distance from the two keyframes. Now that's a bit too slow. Let's bring them closer together to speed it up. So that looks actually really good. Could be a little bit slower, like around here. Alright, looks good. But there's still another movement or another animation that I've added. And that is that the dashes are also moving. And for that we have to move down to our stroke option again. And now we have to play around with the offset option right here. Because when I change numbers, you can already see in my animation that the dashes are moving. So we are using this option for our advantage. So we go ahead and maybe let's create the keyframe right here and just hit the stopwatch. And now we have to go ahead, move forward like around here. And now we have to decrease the number into the negative, like around here, like let's say 368. Let's see how it looks. Maybe it's too fast, maybe it's too slow, we will see. Actually looks decent, but let's move it more to the right side because we want the movement to be there continuously. So let's take a look. And of course that's way too slow, so let's change the number from minus 368 to maybe let's say 700. Let's see. So that looks pretty good. Can be a bit faster, so let's say 750. So that's actually fine, I like that a lot. Of course, when you are in your own project, you can change the numbers as you like them to be. In my case, I'm using 750, that should be fine. And yeah, we're good to go with this line. Okay, the next thing that I like to add, or that I would like to add, are the icons. And that's also a really simple step to do. But first, before I do that, let's rename this layer of my line right here, so we don't confuse it in the future. Almost broke my own rule right here by not renaming this layer. But I did it, so everything is fine. Okay, so for creating the icons, we again have to select our rectangle tool and we have to create an icon frame. For that I need you to press and hold your shift key and you have to just create a frame like so, like around this size. I think that I'm scaling it down later. I think it's a little bit too big, but yeah, we will see. But first of all, let's change the filling from this red color to the exact same blue that we are using as our background. Hit OK, and let's change also the stroke color from this white also to this bluish color, and I think we can also use the exact same blue that we've used in our text box, like down here. So just hit enter and we add some roundness to it. So let's say 21, that actually sounds good. And let's bring it closer to his head. Let's see if the size is alright. Now I think that we can go ahead and resize it a little bit. But first of all, rename the layer to icon 1. Hit enter. Hit S. Let's scale it down a bit. Like around that size. I think that's actually fine. Maybe we can make it bigger a little bit. And that's what I've said. When you're looking at it from this perspective, it looks perfectly fine, but when you're zooming out, you will realize that it is a little bit too small. So it's really important that you take a few steps back to really look at your whole animation and not just from a close-up like this. So that makes no sense. So just zoom out a little bit, take a look at it, and then you can decide if it is fine or not. In my case, I want it to be a bit bigger, just a little bit. It's again too big. Let's say 95. Yeah, let's stick with 95. I don't want to play around with this size any longer. I think that looks good. Alright, so let's go ahead and add in the first icon. So there it is, right there. So let's go ahead and scale it down by pressing S once more. I think you already know what you have to press to scale it down. At least, I hope. If you do know it, then I did everything right in teaching you the basics of After Effects. So that would be actually great. But yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and let's center it up right here. Looking good. Yeah, it's actually fine. And yeah, I also like to add a drop shadow effect to the icon right here. So let's go ahead and already use the drop shadow and just drag and drop it to your icon right here and add some softness to it as well. All right. In my animation and also in the animation of Iman, we see that the line right here is some kind of squiggly line, so it's moving in a really random way. Let's call it like that. So it's looking really interesting, and in order to add this, we have to add an effect that is called turbulence displace. So just type in turbulent displace, and now you have to select the effect under the sword. Just drag and drop it to your icon right here, and now you can already see that it looks really messed up right here. That's because we have to change the numbers up here, like the amount and the size. Let's change it from 100 to, yeah, let's see, let's say maybe 2. Yeah, 2 is actually fine. Now let's change the amount to maybe 43. I really can't tell you guys, and that's because I still have to do one more step, and this step is actually like the essential step that we have to take. And then we can again play around with these numbers, but for now we just decrease the numbers so it's not looking too crazy. So yeah, so let's go ahead and do the special step, and that's by going into your evolution options right here. So just click on the little arrow, and now you have to hold your Alt key on your keyboard, and now you have to click on the stopwatch with left click again, and by doing that you will see that a little text box down here in your timeline will open up, and now I need you to type in time, then this star symbol, so time times 7, and now you have to click out of the text box. First of all, I want to save my project before I show you the other steps. So now you can see that it adds some kind of movement to it, and yeah, it actually looks really good in my opinion. It's fine. I think we can change it to another number because it's a little bit too fast for me personally. So maybe let's change it from 7 to, let's say, 5. Let's see how it looks. So that's actually not bad. I actually like that. It's maybe a bit too much, so let's go ahead and see if we can change the settings a bit. So maybe let's reduce it to 20. Let's see how that looks. So that's actually excellent right here. It's not too much, it's actually really good. And I would say that we can go ahead and also add this effect to our text boxes right here, like to our first text box and also to our second text box. And we don't have to do the entire process again. We can just go ahead and we can select this effect right here. Just hit Ctrl C, and now we have to go into our pre-composition, just double click it, and now hit Ctrl B. So there we can see that the animation is in here with the exact same options that we have set. So that's actually a really good way to work in your project. You don't have to redo all of it. You can just go ahead and copy paste it onto your other layers. So let's do that as well for our second text box right here. Just copy and paste, and you should end up with that right here. Looking actually not that bad in my opinion. It's a really decent animation right here. It's not too much, but it is still there and you can still see it, but it is not like an overwhelming effect that will like blow your mind, but it adds some kind of detail to your animation and it looks not that bad in my opinion. Alright, so let's keep moving with our icons, and of course, they are not like sitting there for the entire time. They still have an animation, so they are coming in also with an animation. So let's go ahead and animate our icon, but for that we have to create another pre-composition. So just hold Ctrl and select your layers like so, and now you have to pre-compose it again. I think I don't have to explain it anymore. I think you know the drill already. So let's call it icon 1, or let's call it icon. Food icon sounds actually better, so food icon, and hit enter. And if I'm not mistaken, it is actually on the left side and not on the right side. So just reposition it to the left side, like around here. And now let's redo it for all the other icons. It's actually really simple. I just go ahead to my pre-composition right here. So you can also double click it, of course. And I will only go ahead and copy my icon frame, and I will just paste it in, and I will recreate the whole process for all the other icons. Alright, and we are back. So, okay, let's go ahead and actually reposition these icons, because I think that they are not in the right position right now. It looks a little bit weird if you ask me. So let's go ahead and maybe place them around here. Maybe the music icon, let's say around, maybe around here. Yeah, like so, that could work. Maybe let's bring these two icons a little bit more up to his head. So around here, I think that looks actually really good. And also let's do it with the phone and also with the book icon. Let's move it down a little bit, and also the book icon a little bit more up, like so, and like so. Let's zoom out a little bit to take a look, and it actually looks clean. Maybe we can move the book icon a little bit more to the left, if that's possible. So let's see. So yeah, that's actually not that bad. Yeah, around here. Let's select them once more together, and let's see. Yeah, that actually should be fine, like so. And of course they also have an animation, and that's actually also really simple to do, and it is the effect called fast box blur. You can already see it right here. It's under blur and sharpen, and just go ahead and drag and drop it to our food icon right here. Let's expand it, go to the effects tab. Let's go ahead and expand the fast blur option as well. Go to the blur radius, go to, let's say, 160, and now let's move the playhead forward and go down to 0% again. And I think that could be a little bit too slow, at least I feel like it could be too slow, but let's see. That actually looks really good, but let's adjust the keyframes again, like we did several times before. I think that you already guessed it, what you have to press. It is F9. Let's take a look if it is any better or not. That's actually pretty fine, if you ask me. It's actually good. Maybe a little bit too fast, I think. So let's make it a little bit, just a tiny bit slower. Okay, actually not that bad. And let's go ahead and also do that for the phone icon right here. And again, we don't have to redo all of that. We just can go ahead and copy the effect. Just tap on it or click on it and copy, and go to our phone icon and paste it in. So let's take a look where the effect is. It is right here. And let's see. Alright, for some reason we don't see the second keyframe, but that's fine. We can just go ahead and type it in. That's no problem at all. So let's take a look, but it's of course not set correctly because the food icon should be there first and not the phone icon. So let's move it more to the right side so that the food is there at first and then as second the phone. Let's adjust the keyframes a little bit more so they have kind of the exact same distance like the keyframes down here. So let's see. Looks good. And now we also have to do it for the music icon and also for the book icon right here. So we just go ahead and again copy the effect and just select the two layers and just paste it in. And again we have to set the keyframe, like the first keyframe, for the 160. Like around here, 160. Hit enter. And when you select both layers, then you should also have the exact same settings set right here. Let's take a look. Yeah, it is right there as well. So they should be in there at the exact same time. Of course, the question is, when do they appear? I think that they will appear way too soon, so they should appear later. So let's go ahead and take a look. Like there are the two icons, and then the other two are coming in right here. Let's maybe go ahead and bring them in sooner a little bit. So around here. Wait a second, maybe let's bring them a little bit closer together. Like around here. So it looks actually really, really good. So the next thing that we have to do is to zoom in. Like there is a zoom in on the person, and when we are zooming in, the icons are disappearing or they are like moving out of my animation to the left and to the right side. So let's go ahead and add this animation real quick. So let's go ahead and create the pre-composition. Just click on pre-compose and let's call it man sitting on carpet with text. Hit enter, and now we can hit S like so, and now we can do the zoom in. So let's go ahead and do it like that. Let's zoom in a little bit, not that much, just a little bit, like around so, and again change the keyframes. Again, I don't have to tell you what you need to press. I think that should be clear by now. That should be fine. Let's take a look. That's actually perfect. And as we zoom in, the icons, as I've told you earlier, are moving to the left and to the right side. But I don't want to animate them separately. I want to move them at the same time, or let's say two icons at the same time. And for that, we again have to create another pre-composition for the book and for the phone. So let's select the phone as well. Right click, pre-compose, and let's call it icons right side. And hit enter. And again for the other two icons, again pre-compose and icons left side and hit enter again. And now we have to press P for the position. And let's take a look. Like we are zooming in right here. So when the movement starts, we want the icons to move away. So let's do that. Let's hit the keyframe button the exact same time. So now let's go ahead and let's animate the icons on the right side first. So let's go ahead and move them out of the animation, like let's say so. And now let's do it for the left icons as well. Like so. Alright, let's take a look. And that's way too fast actually, so let's do it like so. Maybe we should first of all manipulate our keyframes, then we take a look how we can improve the movement even further. So let's go ahead and do it like so. So they need to be outside when he stops moving, so they should actually be out right here. but I feel like the movement is way too fast. So let's see if we can improve that. When we are slowing down the zoom in effect, we can also slow down the movement of the icons, as you can see right here. So in my opinion, it looks better. So let's stick with that. I think that actually looks not that bad. It's fine. And now what I would like to do next is to add some more details to the animation. So one thing that I added to my animation is a shadow. Like down here underneath the man that is meditating, I added a shadow. And also what I also did is that I added in a floating animation for the man that is sitting, so that he is moving up and down again, up and down again. And the shadow is also changing the size. When he's moving up, the shadow is getting smaller, and when he's moving down, the shadow is getting bigger. And that's actually a really nice addition to the animation, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. So here is our shadow, and again I found this graphic on Canva. So let's go ahead and rename the layer first. And now let's move it down right here. And let's also change the opacity. Let's change it to, let's say 70%. I think that makes sense. And now I think the smartest thing that we can do is to add the floating animation first, and then we can change the shadow. And yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's press P, and let's see what we can do right here. So now he's down, like he came down from up here. But now we want him to move up again, so maybe around here. And now let's just play around with the y-axis. But we don't have to bring him up that much, just lift him up a little bit, slightly lift him up, not that much. So let's take a look how it looks. So that's actually not that bad. But now we can go ahead and just copy the keyframe right here and paste it in. So we are at the same height like before, like when he came down first. And now we can just go ahead and copy these keyframes again, like so. Copy, like before with the head movement that we've done. Just go ahead and copy paste them in here, like so, and check if it looks good or not. I would say that it looks not too bad, but it's not too good yet. And that's because we still have to change the graph. So let's select the keyframes and go to the graph editor. And as you can see, it looks really weird right here. So let's go ahead and change that by selecting all the keyframes once more. And again, press F9. And so let's take a look. Let's bring that closer again. And that one as well. That one as well. And also, what we did before, lift these little yellow boxes up so the movement is a little bit more fluent. So that looks really good. Actually perfect. Maybe we can still play around with the keyframes, maybe move them apart a little bit more so it is a little bit more slower in the movement and not so fast. I think that also can do a lot, but at the end of the day I think that's not that important because it already looks really good. So maybe around so. So yeah, let's keep it like that. I think we don't have to complicate it that much. So let's go ahead and also change the shadow. In that case, I want to change the scale. So let's go ahead to the first frame right here. And let's change the size. Let's make it smaller a little bit, like so. And create a keyframe, of course. And now let's see. Let's make it bigger again. Let's bring it back to 100% again. Let's see how it looks. and you actually don't really see it because of the fact that the text box is in front of it. But you can see it a little bit, that it is getting bigger a little bit. So yeah, just go ahead and now reduce the size of it again. Actually, maybe let's go ahead and even decrease it more, like let's say to 75, like so. Because now when he's not moving up that much, it makes no sense that the scale is even lower than when he is right here, because it was at 96, but back here it was at 86, which makes no sense when he is not moving up that much than he was back here. So yeah, just for common sense, let's change that. Alright, so now he moved up again. Let's take a look how that looks. Actually good. Now again, it is just copy pasting the keyframes. So let's go ahead and just paste them in. Of course, you have to change the timing. Alright, let's take a look. And if that's good, then we have done it. Then we are done with this animation. So it is really decent, but let's take a look at it in the entire animation. Yeah, that actually is perfect. Yeah, that's actually really good. Okay. All right. That should be it. That should be it for the main animation. But there's one last effect that we need to add. And this effect is called posterized time. And that's actually the key effect that Iman is using in his videos. So again, guys, I need you to do a pre-composition. So let's call it, wait a second, let's call it everything, because it includes everything. And now I need you to type in posterize time under the time tab and just drag and drop it on your pre-composition right here. And what it does is that it changes the frame rate to whatever you want it to be. I personally like to change it to 12 or 15. Let's say, 15. Let's change it to 15 and let's take a look how it looks. So it really adds this laggy effect to your video, and it really gives you the finishing touch. So it is really nice to have this effect in your animation. And as I've said before, Iman is using it a lot in his videos, and I like it a lot. So you can also use it in your animation as well if you want to. So that's it for the tutorial today. If you have any questions or feedback, let me know in the comments. And of course, follow our Instagram page. We are uploading animations and tips and tricks on there. Also subscribe to this channel if you want to learn more about CapCut and After Effects. There will be more tutorials soon, so don't miss out on that. So see you guys later.